two questions. The first one is more of a funny off-topic question. When you guys have dinner after the show, why don't you ever invite religious people?
They are invited.
It's open to the public.
Oh, okay. I normally hear just the atheists, atheist friends, or I don't hear like
a lot of times people will say
anybody.
atheist or atheist-friendly people. So yeah, I mean, we don't want people that are hostile to atheism coming to the dinner for sure.
Yeah.
But
and you're not allowed to come here and proselytize.
we ask nobody that comes through the door for the dinner what their views are on God.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe I understood it then. All right. So the real question is I just want to see kind of where we get our morals and see if our morals conflict with our daily lives. According to Scripture, I'm a Christian, so I'll be talking about Christianity. I think there's quite a bit of things, and I know you don't believe it, but in the Bible where you probably think it's immoral. Let's say the killing of the Canaanites. Would you say if that actually did take place, or whether it's a story or not, do you think that's immoral?
I think genocide is wrong, yes.
Okay. Okay, so again, the question is, my question is to see if our morals conflict with our daily lives. So the Old Testament, there's slavery, there's Canaanite genocide. And so what I would like to ask is, do you think abortion is a moral right? Do you think abortion is a moral right?
I don't believe, I guess I don't know what a moral right is. Yeah.
Do you think it's acceptable behavior?
I think if a woman wants an abortion, she should be able to have an abortion.
Okay. So when we're talking about the Old Testament, how do you justify saying God killing the Canaanites is an immoral act, but when we kill people here in our uterus, that's a moral right?
For me, this boils down to the idea of respect for individual autonomy. When you murder the Canaanite, right, you are violating that person, and that's why I view it as wrong, assuming that they're not trying to kill you, right? So when you murder a Canaanite child, for example, I would say that would be wrong because that child is not threatening you. That child is not a threat to your society or to you personally, and so you are just violating them. You are violating that person in a way that violates them, takes their life. And so because you have not respected their agency and their autonomy as a human being, that is where the violation comes in. When it comes to an abortion, I have to respect the woman's autonomy, right? She's the one being violated here. Her body is violated, and I have to respect her autonomy and her agency in the same way. So I'm looking at this as, when I view it, she's in the position of the Canaanite child, right? Because her body is being violated by another person, and she has then a right to not be violated in the same way the Canaanite has a right to not be violated, because I respect both of them as autonomous people who have the right to say, I don't want to be violated.
Do you think that, and again, I'm not trying to just take this all like an abortion conversation. I'm just really trying to do this in a moral kind of sense. So you're saying the innocent children and women, and say the Canaanites, is the child in the uterus, do you consider that a child, an innocent child, or does that have intrinsic value?
Okay, well, hold on. First question, do I consider it a child? I feel like what Roe v. Wade came up with, and I think it's probably as close to an answer as we can get, is that there is a point at which there's like a time span at which nature, during a gestation, has what we call the fetus would be non-autonomous, right? In other words, it cannot survive without the mother's body. And then you have a time span while the fetus is still not yet born where it could survive independently, right? Where you've got this entity that if it were born early, for example, would survive, it would be viable. And so Roe v. Wade kind of drew a line and said the state can have an interest when you have something there that can be autonomous, can be independent. It's kind of a weird decision, but I do agree that there is a point where you have in the uterus an autonomous person, and where there's a point prior to that where you do not. Are we in agreement on that?
Well, I mean, I think science, recently has come out to say that, it is a 100% genetically human being.
No, it's a human being. It's a human being. We're talking about personhood.
Correct. You don't gain any new genetic information.
No, that's not the question.
I'm talking about personhood, right? The concept of being an autonomous person.
What separates that fetus from, say, an infant? Water, food, air,
autonomy.
And time.
Autonomy. The infant. Wait a minute.
Yeah, water, food, air. Wait a minute. Air, and time.
Hold on. Okay, here's what separates it. The baby that is born is not violating someone else's body. That's the difference.
But it's not. But a child, and when someone asks you how, if you were pregnant, I wouldn't ask you, if I was talking about your baby, I wouldn't ask you how's your body. I would ask you how's your baby.
I don't understand.
So it's a separate person. It's a separate person.
Right. A baby is a separate
it's not,
person.
Yeah, it's a person in your body.
But the point, that's what I'm saying. It's a person in your body, right? So think of it in terms of like sex. Well, wait a minute, like in sexuality, right? If a woman consents to sex, then we call that sex. If a woman doesn't consent to sex, we consider it a violation and we call it rape, right? We can say it's wrong because she didn't consent to this. Her agency, her autonomy as a human being has not been respected, and that's what we're saying is wrong. If we respect her autonomy and she wants to have sex and she has sex, then it's not considered a violation and a rape. You're allowed to be inside her body. So when you have a pregnancy that she's consenting to, then this is her pregnancy. But when she has a pregnancy that she is not consenting to, then her body is being violated. And I agree with you, whether you call it a person, not a person, a child, not a child, it has no right to violate someone else's body without their consent.
Are you talking about abortion just with rape, or are you talking about...
No. I'm using rape as an example of how consent makes the difference in bodily violations. So if a woman's body...
So you would agree if I called you, if we were friends, and I told you that, we're thinking about abortion for whatever reason. 95% of abortions are based on inconveniences. If you disagree, feel free to let me know. But to
me it doesn't matter. The reason for the abortion is irrelevant.
So if I called you as a friend and I said, hey, this is what we're thinking about. You were close to us, obviously, if I was talking about abortion with my wife with you. And I said the baby, Jeanette, we found out the baby is going to have blue eyes, and we don't want that, so we're going to have the baby aborted.
Okay.
All right.
That would be morally acceptable to you?
It's not my business. Why a person does it? What if a woman said, I don't want to have sex with this guy because he has blue eyes, and then he had sex with her anyway? Would that be okay?
Yeah, but it's not the child's fault that you have unprotected.
Well, it's not this guy's fault that he has blue eyes. Why can't he just have sex with her?
I just think whatever theories that you come up with will be weaker than my basic intuition that says killing children. Your
intuition doesn't apply to any other person. Your intuition is not a metric by which any other person has to live.
You would tell your friend what then? If they said, hey, I found out the baby's going to be gay, we don't want a gay baby.
My friend owes me no explanations for why they want to have sex with somebody or why they want to have a baby or don't want to have a baby.
You would just hang up the phone, or you would...
No, I'm saying that that's up to them.
Yeah, I can't think of a single friend of mine who would have that conversation with me because they know I don't care. If they want to have an abortion, I'm not going to ask them why.
So why do you care about innocent children dying in the Old Testament?
Because they are not violating somebody. They're not dying.
They're autonomous human beings
in response to violating someone else.
So why do you think that the genocide of the Canaanites was morally correct?
Sure, why not? If we're gonna
No. I'm asking you. You seem to think that has some devastating consequence for abortion, but I'm asking you, was that a morally correct thing?
If he thinks abortion is wrong, then I would think that he would think it's okay to commit genocide.
Yeah.
Because you're basically saying that you can violate people and you don't need their consent to do it, and that their humanity doesn't matter.
But I want him to answer that.
You think that way too. But
no, I'm asking you. I'm asking you what you think.
I'm saying if someone's not violating somebody else, then there's no grounds to be harming them.
Well, in Canaanites, it says God, God said to wipe everyone out, but then you have a sentence or two later that says don't remarry with them and stay away from them. So a lot of the language that was spoken back in the day, it's like annihilating. We annilated that team. Or really,
so I guess my question is,
we use that same language today. So I don't really think he annihilated them.
But if you think it's all right,
I don't think an NBA team annihilates their opponent.
If you think it's okay to murder autonomous children, why are you opposed to abortion?
Because I don't think genocide was a complete wipeout of Satan.
But do you believe that children, that they were instructed to kill children?
Well, I could tell you, if there is a God, you probably wouldn't bow down and worship him if you knew that story was completely true.
Do you believe in the story of Abraham and Isaac?
Sure, yeah. I believe in the entire Bible.
So then you believe that God would tell someone to kill their child. And you believe, why would you not believe it when the Bible says that God told them to go wipe out people and kill the children and kill the women? And, why would you think?
Because when you read a verse, when you take text out of I'm going to mix this up, but yeah, when you take text out of context, you always get conned. You got to read the entire.
You're saying that I can't find a verse where God instructed the Israelites to kill children?
Yeah,
you're saying that verse doesn't exist.
That verse, but then you can also take your reading a step further and take it to fourth grade reading, and then read a couple more sentences, and you're going to see that it also talks. How can we annihilate the Canaanites? But then it says, don't remarry with them. So it was a.
Were they told to kill the children or not?
But do you care if they were told that?
I do, if you're going to say that you're in favor of the Bible and you think that that's a moral thing to do, and then you're going to say that you think abortion is wrong, but it's okay to murder children.
What my point is I hear you guys a lot talking about slavery, Canaanites.
Yeah.
And I've yet heard anyone ask you what's your stance on an innocent life in the uterus.
I think a person who's being violated.
I'm saying it sounds a little conflicting.
No, it's consistent. I'm saying that if you're violating somebody else, then they have a right to defend their body.
I mean, and I got to tell you, I don't believe your claim that you've never heard anyone ask us what we think about abortion, because we've talked about this many times on this show.
Okay, well, I probably listened maybe 15 shows in the last year.
Yeah, and here's First Samuel 15:2-3. Thus says the Lord of hosts, I have noted what Amalek did to Israel in opposing them on the way when they came up out of Egypt. Now go and strike Amalek and devote to destruction all that they have. Do not spare them, but kill both man and woman, child and infant, ox and sheep, camel and donkey.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
Are you reading that? Is that the Greek version, or is that like the NIV? Or?
Oh, so it only counts if it's the Greek version?
No, because I think you guys are intelligent enough that the 1611 King James Version is a little bit different in language than, say, the NIV.
All right. You guys if we're gonna do Bible Gateway, let's look up all the different verses. Do we really need to do this? Because it's really pathetic. The Bible has people telling them that God has instructed them to go and kill children. We know that that's in the Bible, and you're dancing around and saying, no, it's not. It's not an interpretation. How clear could that be?
Let me ask you this.
I can be honest and say I agree with that. I don't have to hide.
Well,
to say I don't agree with that.
Let me ask you this. You say that your God did not command a genocide. Is that your claim?
No, he's saying a genocide wasn't committed. I mean, clearly a genocide was commanded. I mean, I just read where a genocide was commanded.
My point is, if there is a God, then if he takes an innocent life, whether you're 2 or 72, How is that immorally different than you taking an innocent child in your womb? And
because the person that God is having killed isn't violating somebody. I don't understand why you don't get this. If that person is not threatening somebody or violating their body in some way, then why is it justified to kill them?
So if God's the author of life, he can't take an innocent life? just as much as an author of a mother can't take her innocent child?
I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
No, a person cannot just go and kill a child, but you can defend yourself against a bodily violation that you are not consenting to.
I don't understand.
Maybe I'm not understanding the bodily violation. What is that?
The fetus,
when somebody inserts
the mother's body
into your body and you didn't agree to that, so it's like a rape, right? When somebody has sex with you and you're not consenting.
I'm not talking about the 1% of rape abortion.
I'm not talking about a rape abortion either. Look, this is not hard. I'm saying that if you want to have a pregnancy and you're happy with it and you're consenting to it, after you find out about your pregnancy, you consent to it, then you have a happy pregnancy. If you have sex with somebody and you consented to that sex, you have a happy sexual experience, right? So then if you're in a situation where you don't agree to have sex with somebody and they violate your body, that's considered a rape and it's a bodily violation, and we say that that woman has been violated and it's wrong. And so what I'm saying is when you have a pregnancy where the woman has not, she finds out she's pregnant and she says, I do not consent to have my body violated in this way. I do not consent to this. So now we've got a person in her body that she is not consented to have there, and they're violating her.
Correct. So let me ensure that you're answering my question and not jumping. We probably all think we're jumping around, but my question to you is, if it's not rape and she just wants to have an abortion of inconveniences, that is okay to you. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what we've been saying all along.
Yes, I'm only using rape as an analogy. I'm not saying that the woman who's having an abortion was raped or not raped. I'm saying that you have to, I'm talking about the importance of consent in judging whether or not a person is being wrongfully violated. You
guys are very smart with science, correct? I mean, you
I'm not.
Agree with science?
Jen has an engineering degree. I am not that good.
So why is it though when science conflicts with what you think is correct, say a 100% genetic human being, the moment that sperm
that's not in conflict with what we're talking about.
No, I agree with you that it's a human being.
Yes,
correct. So so you agree that science says that's an actually genetic human being?
Yes.
And it's okay to suck the brains out of it?
If it's violating somebody who does not consent to the violation, yes.
I see. So if someone has unprotected sex because they're idiots, then to you, they have a moral right to say, this is inconvenient for me, get it out.
Yes.
But if God, the author of life, says, this child needs to be dead today for whatever reason.
Right, because God's not being violated. God's not being violated, and the child that he's commanding be killed isn't violating anyone. This woman, you're basically saying that we should sanction her in a... Go ahead.
So my 4 kids that I have, they're potentially violated my wife.
If she didn't want to have them, yes.
Yeah.
But it has value if the mom says yes, no value if the mom says no.
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
You got
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You guys, I don't know how you're cheering and happy, right? That makes sense to you?
Yes, like, and that's why I was trying to use the sex example. It's happy if she says yes and consents to it, then it's a happy sexual experience. If she doesn't consent, we all understand that it's a traumatic rape. Consent is what makes the difference here in whether or not a bodily violation is something that is okay or not okay.
So she has a right to get rid of this.
She has a right to not have her body be violated without her consent.
Okay, now, rights exist in a materialistic universe?
Sure.
What is a right? Is it a preference or is it a right?
No. A right technically is the things that your society allows you to do under like the laws. So if it's not against the law, then technically you can do it. right?
But
now,
if you were living in North Korea, you wouldn't have that same.
Let's say that I lived in a country where abortion was completely banned, all right? Then it would be true that women do not have a right to an abortion in that country, but I would be fighting really hard to get women that right.
So Hitler was right with killing millions of Jews because he called the shots and it was his country.
No, I'm saying that that under the law, he had given himself this right, and that would be a situation where I would fight against that right.
You would say you would disagree with that.
I would say we should not have that right. Yeah.
So right is subjective.
Well, it's a legal term. I mean, it's like a right has to do with what you are allowed to do. Now, whether or not you should be allowed to do it or whether or not you shouldn't be allowed to do it is a whole other matter. What rights we're going to grant and not grant are debatable, and I know which ones I would go for, which would be the ones that would maximize autonomy in situations where you're not harming somebody, and I wouldn't let people be violated in situations where they don't consent to it and where they haven't done harm.
Okay.
I mean, I'm going to go ahead. We have other callers, and I think we've gone on, and I feel like you've had opportunity to make the points you want to make. Do you feel satisfied at least that you've been able to express your views?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for not hanging up on me.
No, it's okay.
You know, I know abortion is a touchy subject, but, you know, I got my point across, you guys got your point across, and the audience and whatever can make their, you know.
Okay, I'm good with that too, and I want to thank you for your call, John. Okay.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.